Hello everyone! First day of Blizzcon has come and gone, and I wanted to sit down and talk about a few things that really stood out for me. Mainly the Warcraft stuff, of course, but Blizzcon is not just about Warcraft. StarCraft 2 has the co-op commander Zeta tool. I'm not even going to pretend what that's all about, I don't really play StarCraft 2. Heroes of the Storm is looking at quite a few revamps for the game, as well as skins and sprays and whatnot, with a demonstration of a brand new hero called Orphea, daughter of the Raven Lord, that does not agree with her father's choices. Diablo got the very well received mobile game called Immortal, which disappointed quite a lot of the fans. A lot were hoping for like a Diablo 4 or something, not mobile game related. But there it is. Overwatch has a new hero coming up in the form of Ashe, I think she was called, a gunslinging, dynamite-throwing, Bob-summoning beauty with a history connected to McCree. But let's be real here, Bob is the actual carry. Hearthstone actually had a leaked announcement before the con was already available, but yeah, the troll adventure called Rastakan's Rumble, which is themed around trolls and Loa. It's a really quick rundown of the other IPs that they got going, but my area is more about Warcraft, and they talked about a whole lot of stuff, which I think was definitely needed, but I'll leave it up to you to decide if it was enough. A delicious surprise comes in the form of Warcraft 3 Remastered, with the cinematic and the graphic updates. Oh man, I cannot wait to play through this beauty once more. Pre-order is already available at playwarcraft3.com, and if you buy the Spoils of War edition, you also get goodies across the other games, like a Hearthstone card pack, Warcraft Heroes in Heroes of the Storm, there's a freaking meat wagon mount that will shoot critters in WoW, and much more with details coming soon. Something that I personally didn't know I really wanted, but the moment that high definition cinematic started playing, oh, I was already sold, man. Now I just have to wait until it drops somewhere next year. The classic demo is also available for those that are at the con itself, as well as virtual ticket holders, a chance to see what classic Warcraft is going to be like. Only Westfall and the Barons are available for testing right now, which means that you can't really reach the profession trainers, you can't really reach any of the massive quest lines, like unlock adept mines that go through different zones. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to test. Mainly I've seen people PvP with each other. And yeah, definitely a blast from the past. It's also been quite a mixed reaction, what I saw in the general chat. Some are ecstatic about leveling actually being somewhat difficult, while others, they scratched their heads and they wondered if this is really what people wanted so badly to get back to. For me, it felt like I expected it to feel. It felt like classic, which is a good thing, of course. You know, if you're looking for classic World of Warcraft, it will be there. And time will tell how much time I'll personally actually invest in playing it. It was a very nice little nostalgia trip though. I'm sure that I'll be streaming it later this week to see ammo back again and feeding your pet and the talent trees and whatnot. Yeah, definitely fun to be like, oh yeah, that's what it was like. Right. Now the summer of 2019, that will see many people spend their holidays exploring the lands of classic World of Warcraft, with the game itself being included within the current subscription. I'm personally very happy about that. At least I wanted to sign up for additional subscriptions or buy a different game, but I did see a lot of people being surprised about a price tag attached to it. Apparently a lot of people expected classic World of Warcraft to be for free, but that's not the case. Then into World of Warcraft news, and of course there are going to be spoilers. This is about BlizzCon after all. If you don't want any spoilers, then please turn off the video right now. There was the Lost Honor cinematic. I've said this many times before, but it's absolutely incredible to see that the cinematic department at Blizzard Entertainment, they just keep on improving and pushing it further. Honestly, how far we've come with the cinematics. But enough gushing, it has Anduin and Greymane, they're talking with each other, the war is carrying on with no end in sight. Anduin decides to pay a little visit to Saurfang to discuss matters, discuss honor, and Saurfang, he wants nothing more than to take the horde back from Sylvanas, back from the path of destruction that he had helped her place it upon. He spared Anduin's life once, there's still honor to be regained. As the Prince of Stormwind, he lets the door open and he allows Saurfang to escape.
What I want is my horde back.
Perhaps together they could put a stop to Sylvanas and end this war. It's interesting, since I remember at the start of the expansion, a whole lot of people, they were not down with the Banshee Queen, but over time, they do seem to warm up to her vision of the Horde, rather than Saurfang and his endless fixation of honor. Honor means little to the dead. Or perhaps there are some things that are worth dying for. two different visions when it comes to the Horde, something that's going to be a bit reflected in the next patch, as you actually get choices in your questing experience. You get to choose your actions with different results and different rewards, but at the end of the day, I do really wonder how much of an effect these choices are going to have. There might be a bit of dialogue difference, NPCs might react a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we're all still going to the same conclusion of the expansion. Still, it's nice to see them at least make an effort, as I also recall the days of Mr. Pandaria, and a lot of people wanted to cyber garage. Back then, you had no option to do so, now at least you get a bit of choice. They also did a bit of a recap on the stuff that's available for testing on the PTR right now. Thankfully, they kept it nice and short. The next patch, Tides of Vengeance, that will offer a new warfront in the form of Darkshore, which comes with this badass cinematic of Malfurion finally showing off what an Archdruid can do. His skills and abilities in the books and the short stories, they're always described in such a badass way. This is an elf, this is a druid that has turned his enemies into a freaking tree. He summons storms that send the legion running. And well, yeah, you know, he lets nature rise up against you, and now we get to see a little bit of what he can actually do. Hopefully, that will also be reflected in-game. Now next to him stands his beloved Tyrande, with a bit of an eye color change. She seems to be looking rather dark. That's all part of a questline coming up in the next patch, in which she embraces the Night Warrior, which is a ritual, the incarnation of Elun's wrath. It's clear that the elves are done being kicked around by the enemies. Hopefully, they'll finally do them some justice.
Tell her we are coming.
So we're going to be partying around Teldrassil, while Kaltira's Zandalar, they see the war coming to its shores, similar to Legion Assaults. There's going to be new island expeditions called Jorundal and Havenswood, a new war campaign featuring Gallywix and Mekatork, who are going after each other, heritage armor for the Blood Elves and the Dwarves, including a little questline attached to it, quality of life changes in the form of reputation being account-wide, the Bloom vendors for expedition rewards, improved emissary rewards, stuff like that, and of course a big raid to conquer, not the Siege of Orgrimmar, instead it's the Battle of the Zar Alor. That blood moon behind it. Oh, it's freaking gorgeous, man. The Alliance and Horde, they will get their own individual experiences in this raid, with the chance of playing through what the other side experiences. The Alliance is going to siege the capital Zandalar, and the Horde is going to stand with the new allies. Now, I don't recall them actually talking about the raid Crucible of Storms. I might have missed it if they actually mentioned it at the con, but there is going to be another mini raid already announced for 8.1. Now the release date for this patch is December 12th in Europe, I believe 11th for the US and the 13th for other regions, with a new raid coming in the next year. But that's stuff we kinda already knew about, but more has been revealed. In 8.1.5, there will be the two new allied races, called Tyrants and the Zandalari. What made me personally very happy to see is that Zandalari Paladins are confirmed. You can never have enough Paladins to play, but what's interesting is that on the panel slide, we can see the option of Zandalari Warlocks, but that's not actually ticked on the website. It could be that the website still needs to be updated, like it did for the Paladin, but that's a whole other class choice you have right there. The Tyrants, they don't have the Paladins, instead they get the Shamans. And a lot of people noticed that they don't have mages as an option. Now lore-wise, when it comes to the classes, there's usually a spin you can give to it. A race that can wield the light and a weapon, well, potentially, with the right training, they could become a Paladin. In the case of the Tyrants, we see monks, for example. Perhaps once upon a time, there was a Pandaran that traveled there to teach them. Lore-wise, you could be very flexible on how far you want to take it, but I know a lot of people wanted to see the mages or even warlocks as an option. Who knows what might still come in the future. And, oh yeah, they also announced the mounts, of course, and the racials. And rejoice, the Tyrants are getting another horse. Because, you know, you can never have enough horses. Of course, some nice little updates for 8.1.5 as well. There's going to be a portal room to make it easier to find your portals. The Darkmoon Fair gets a roller coaster. Holiday updates like Zandalari and Kaltiran kits that are going to be added to the Children's Week. We have a holiday in which we go diving in Vajir or hang out at the Wanderers Festival. You know, little holiday updates. Also in the PvP department, Arafi Basin and Warsong Gulch, they're getting a graphical update, as well as a brawl in which you can fight against the AI. But that AI update, that will come later on. Professions are getting quests attached to them with some sexy rewards. There's going to be an item, for example, that will allow a blacksmith to create indestructible armor. Warlords of Draenor dungeons are entering the Time Walker rotation. And then the one that I'm most excited about for 8.1.5. There's going to be an update to the Brawlers Guild with a new lineup for the bosses, a revamped difficulty, and even a quest line to explore the underbelly of the underbelly that is the Brawlers Guild. But of course, a 0.5 patch, that's an in-between one. Some nice little updates. Well, 8.2, that reveals the bigger next chapter. So we went from the burning of Teldrassil into the siege of Lordaeron, to Kultiris and Zandalar to recruit these allies, into now Anduin setting Saurfang free and fighting in the shadow of the burned down World Tree. There are many losses on both sides, something that the Naga make use of in the Rise of Azshara patch. Zandalar and Kultiris, they're going to be attacked with their people dragged underwater. Something evil is going on deep in the sea, something heavily hinted at, of course. Those that have played through Shrine of the Storms, you will know that Queen Azshara was coming. We're going to take a few of the remaining ships and set sail for the great blue beyond, finding something rather unexpected. A chasm in the ocean, surrounded by waterfalls, we find a new land. A very, very old new land, the capital of the Naga, named Nazjatar.
For Nazjatar.
Starting our adventures in the south, the ship graveyard, we move further up north and we see the ruins of Zinajari, which was once the capital of the Night Elves before that whole sundering 10,000 years ago. We dragged it all beneath the waves and had Azshara enter a deal with N'Zoth, which then turned herself and all of her people into the Naga. Along the way, we'll encounter new races to party with and new enemies to fight. Fight our way to Azshara's eternal palace, their seat of power, where we'll finally face the queen herself. A raid with 8 bosses in total. Now they didn't say if we're actually going to slay her or not. I personally think that Azshara, she deserves more than a single patch, but time will tell. They also mentioned a lot of repeatable outdoor content, so if you enjoyed stuff like the Timeless Isle or Argus or Surumar, they even mentioned way back when Akendun with the outdoor towers. They want to take those concepts and sprinkle them throughout this area. Personally, I can't wait to see what the Naga been up to all these years and what their ancient old empire might hold. Night Elves, Blood Elves, Nightborn, there are so many elf races that have their roots connected to Azshara and their actions with the War of the Ancients. There's so much potential here for interaction. They might even draw a line between Queen Azshara and the actions recently taken by Tyrande. I really can't wait to see how all of this is going to play out, and considering that it's a chasm surrounded by waterfalls, thankfully, we don't have to do a repeat of Vajir. So yeah, Azshara and the Naga confirmed for 8.2. Not entirely unexpected, of course, but then they decided, you know what, let's also drop something new. Something that we've never done before. We're actually going to give some lore to the gnomes. Yeah, you heard me right. Gnomes are actually getting some much needed attention. Now in Tedegard, there is a gnome who's trying to open up a vault. And there was quite a bit of mystery surrounding the junkyard and what happened to the gnomes in the area. We'll uncover a radio signal. Technology that no one has ever seen before. Which of course quickly draws the attention of the goblins and the gnomes. What they find is a second new landmass for us to explore named Mechagon. This is a brand new thing added to the lore. A society in which having a lot of robotic parts that gives you a higher standing amongst their people. Ruled by the king Mechagon, some of their inhabitants, some of the Mechagnomes, they're not down with his way of life, and their king plans of turning everybody into robots, so we get to party with them and take on the king in a dungeon. Similar to what they did with Return to Karazhan, this will be a massive 8-boss mythic-only dungeon. Now the revamped Karazhan dungeon I thought was quite amazing, and seeing that the gnomes actually get more lore, yeah, I'm very excited about this one. And of course, whenever we see something new, some new race added, people are already speculating like, will this be an allied race? Who knows? I'd be down for it. Perhaps they even remember the so-called war that the Blinktrons mentioned in their books. I really wonder, and I can't wait to explore this when it's live. We also have the Goblins and the Worgons that are getting their new models at some point. There are new island expeditions that will be added with Crestfall and Snowblossom. New heritage armor for the Gnomes and Tauren this time around. Your Rogue Warfronts, which you will be able to queue up with for your friends. And of course, when you're going in for a group, it's going to be more difficult, but you're also going to get higher rewards. Flying is set for 8.2, some PvP updates, and of course, more story with the major characters. Characters like Magni, Jaina, Anduin, Saurfang, and Sylvanas. A rather interesting detail that they placed on their slides, that is Sylvanas holding Zolotough. Now originally, Zolotough was the Shadow Priest artifact added in Legion, and it was one of those weapons that would not stop talking to you, give you delicious information on the days of the Black Empire, and drop hints on things to come. There are many theories concerning the blade's creation. The more outlandish claim that this is all that remains of a forgotten old god, who was consumed by its kin in the early days of the Black Empire. Other theories state that Zolotough is the claw of Y'Shaarj, ripped from the old god's monstrous form and bestowed upon its servants for use in ritual sacrifices. When Sargeras stabbed the planet of Azeroth, Priests were forced to use their waifu to cleanse the blade of its corruption, but that would not be the end of her story. Draining the sword, and the eventual loss of power that caused Xal'atath to become dormant. In 8.1, we find out that Xal'atath in the story, she's left the Shadow Priest and come into possession of another. Now this is mainly from datamine dialogue, but it appears that we go through a ritual which has some unforeseen consequences, the awakening of an old god, most likely N'Zoth. It is unknown what happens to Xal'atath afterwards, but this could very well be the thing that leads into that chasm from 8.2, and somewhere along the way, it seems that Xal'atath is going to come into possession of Sylvanas. Now the realm of possibilities is literally endless. In my opinion, probably the worst case scenario, that would be turning Sylvanas into another Prophet Zul, meaning turn her into a servant of the old gods. Hate or love her actions, at least they are her actions, and considering how similar her story is to Garrosh, least they could do is also make sure that whatever she does in the future, she does it out of her own free will. Perhaps that is exactly what's going to happen. We've seen many similarities with Mr. Pandaria. Now whereas Garrosh had the heart of Y'Shaarj, Sylvanas, she will have Xal'atath, a possible claw of Y'Shaarj. Perhaps she's just going to use it to empower her. Or perhaps we'll actually see Xal'atath turn against N'Zoth, or play a key part with another Windrunner, Illyria falling to the Whispers. Like I said, I really hate to see Sylvanas become a servant of the old gods, but time will tell. The future is uncertain, and they can come up with some really cool stuff. That's also where they ended the presentation, with a little sneak peek of the future. The fish know all the secrets, and the old god N'Zoth is of course still waiting for us, somewhere down the line in the patches.
I like deal.
Who are you?
Now is he going to be the end boss of Battle for Azeroth? Potentially. But then again, they might also pull an Argus, as in Gil'jaeden, he seemed to be the end boss of Legion, which was fine on his own, but then they pulled out a whole new area and we were fighting with the freaking Titans. That's a possibility, but only time will tell. I am curious though, what from BlizzCon so far has gotten you excited, and what would you like to see happen with Sylvanas? Do you want her to stay on as War Chief? Do you want her to sacrifice herself? Should Saurfang take over? By all means, let me know in the comments down below. For now though, I hope you all enjoyed the coverage of the first day of BlizzCon. It is getting really late and I still have a lot of editing to do. If anything jumps out tomorrow, I'll probably cover it in a new video. And of course, in the time ahead, we'll be deep diving in some of the more juicier lore bits. Maybe it's time for the story of N'Zoth so far, or maybe deep dive into Xal'atath, a story of Tyrande the Whisperwind. Probably be a good idea. We shall see what the future is going to bring. For now though, thank you very much for watching everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!